What is up? Welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the stock market as well as certain stocks and macro chart and analysis. So let's start off with fear and greed. As you can see on CNN Fear and Greed, we are still in greed territory. We were in neutrality for a while, ticking up into greed. That might be a precursor of things that come with crypto for Bitcoin. We have been going sideways in neutrality for a while. Could the rate cuts be a signal for greed to come back into the market? And something we've been keeping an eye on is sort of the almanac or seasonality perspective for stocks and cryptos. Talk about crypto mainly on this channel. But what we notice here from a chart, what traditionally happens with the NASDAQ after we get a very positive July like we got, is that we tend to chop for a few months. Now, we did have rate cuts this time around. There was a little bit of negativity after, but if this is anything like last year's rate cut cycle, I think we are going to be due for some really good gains in the coming months. And speaking of rate cut cycles, the Fed decided to cut by 25 basis points. And since Jerome Powell talked, there have been talks about stagflation eventually coming back. So what's stagflation if you don't know? There's inflation where the value of your dollars go down, prices go up. Stagflation is inflation and bad economic growth or unemployment going up. So if unemployment is going up and inflation is going up, puts the Fed in a really tricky spot. However, when the Fed does a rate cut cycle by an average of 25 basis points, it tends to be good for the market in the medium term. When they're cutting by 50 basis points, Jerome Powell even said this yesterday, the Fed chairman, that would be more for emergency purposes if things weren't looking so good. So he didn't speak too well on jobs and job openings yesterday, so there is concern there. But he did sort of brush off, I thought, concerns about reigniting inflation or even the stock market going higher when it's already at all-time highs. And I think this is a traditional return of what happens in the years of presidential cycle. And I think that maybe if this rate cut cycle continues, that this may push some of these things down half a year to a year, that this could overcharge the market for a year, and maybe we just delay all these, and possibly year 2 into year 3 is what I'm more concerned about. When we do get any of those pullbacks, if this does end up being an inflationary or stagflationary type environment, I think this is a good chart to keep perspective. Again, here we're trying to look at greed and fear as indicators, and also sort of change our perspective when the S&P is having certain declines, that those can be good buy the dip opportunities. Now, as far as where the market is now, I've been comparing this bubble to that of the dot-com bubble. Now, right now, the overall S&P Shiller PE ratio is at 39.72. Let's just call it 40. It's close enough. We can round up to 40. And we are getting into the territories of the dot-com bubble right here. So, not to compare apples to oranges here, but similarly speaking, when the S&P was near 40 back in the dot-com bubble, I don't know if you could see the date down there, but it was around December of 98. And we can look at the charts later. There was still a year-ish until the top at that time. So I know it might sound hard to believe because there's a lot of people growing more bearish that, pullbacks coming, that we're in a bubble. These can go on longer than people think. So, who knows how long this one could go on for, but we are in those historic levels. If you're expecting 10-year positive returns, you want to make sure you're buying good discounted levels, and we talk about that on this channel as well, how to look for those. As far as crypto seasonality, September and August tend to be most negative. We'll see what happens with crypto. Remember, last year we had that rate cut cycle, and I want you to notice what happened here with Bitcoin. When the rate cut cycle started, September tended to be a little positive, And then October, especially November, very positive. And then January positive as well. On my channel, I talk about Bitcoin mining stocks. I talk about certain altcoins, so subscribe to hear more about that. I'm going to be doing individual altcoin analysis on my YouTube shorts, part of my channel, so leave a comment if there's one that you would like for me to talk about. I am trying to get to those. So let's go to this chart first. This is the U.S. interest rate, U.S. INTR, if you're looking for the chart. And this was the last Fed rate cut cycle. Now you can see they paused for a while, and they did another 25 basis point cut. But if we throw on, let's throw on the S&P here, what happened with the S&P from this time? Well, you can see the S&P went up, went down a little bit. Remember, this was the tariff scare when we had that like 25% pullback, and then we've been going up ever since, or 22, something like that. So the S&P overall did react positive until January. Then it went down. Let's add on, can we get all these together? Let's add on Bitcoin. And as far as Bitcoin's concerned, Bitcoin is the purple, of course. You see Bitcoin went on an even more major rally, and we'll show that in the charts as well later, looking at it from the opposite perspective. Going over to the S&P, if you remember what I was talking about with the similarities between now and 1998, remember what I said, how 1998, December 1998, you see the date down there. We'll just go to the middle. December 1998, the S&P was at around 1,200, and to that all-time high area, 462 days and still 33% higher. So if you're wondering, what would that look like for today's market now, 462 days, 33%. Let's just measure that out. Where would that take us? Let's see, 462 days. Again, it does not have to play out exactly. That would be December of 2026, as you see down there, December 2026. So remember what I said about, maybe all this stuff delaying the inevitable for a little bit, and 33% around an 8,700 S&P. Not saying that it has to happen, but if we did overcharge the market, get into a bubble, I'd be looking at, we've been in this major channel since the great financial crisis. The high is never getting above, the low is never really getting below. I'd be taking a look at this channel really, and we have the 2618 fib from this macro high to low at around 8,200. So I know it seems crazy. We have to see what happens at 7K first. But if this is a run that goes on longer than people think, this does eventually run into our ascending channel here. So you never know. We'll see what happens. As far as the VIX still relatively low, risk on. As far as the percent of stocks above their 200-day average, like this is a leading indicator. You can see this thing keeps going higher, and if we do start to get in the bubble territory, you're looking 70s and 90s. But this thing is very bullish right now. As far as the U.S. central bank balance sheet, let's go to the monthly. Remember, the Fed switched from quantitative tightening to easing back in August 2019. That was a precursor to very good things in the altcoin market. We can add on Ethereum to show this, that after quantitative easing, a lot of quantitative easing, eventually, cryptos did pump. But the USC BBS is at the 100 month moving average again, and once you know it, after going down, it is going sideways right with it. So maybe this is the area where the Fed switches. As far as yields do, pay attention to yields, what they do on this rate cut news. Where was September of 24 last year? September of 24 is right here, and you can see yields ticking up. So something similar is to happen. You're going to be seeing yields tick up again. We're in the monthly. Let's go to the weekly. Unemployment, 4.3%. So I showed you the rate cut chart, the US INTR interest rate chart on TradingView. Also have to pay attention to unemployment. So, some of the most important charts, I think, unemployment, the inflation chart, the yields chart. Okay, you want to factor all those in. It's not as simple as 25 base point rate cuts, market good. It's not always that simple. We do want to factor in these other things as well. So unemployment, if this thing starts ticking up, high 4%, I would be worried there. Now, as far as Bitcoin's concerned, let's go back to last year, September of 2024. You guys just saw where the rate cut cycle was. That September was right here, September 24. And I want you to pay attention to this. So Bitcoin was around a price of, let's just say 60,000. You see the price on the right. And through that rate cut cycle, Bitcoin went up all the way to 109K eventually over the course of 120 days. So if Bitcoin did a similar move from where it is right now, let's say, what was that, 70% move in 190 days? Let's measure that out. Let's get rid of that. Sorry, I sort of chubby fingered the whole thing. 70% move, and was at 120 days. That takes us close to 200K Bitcoin and out into January. And that still matches with the 4-year cycle. Also lines up with the 3618. And if you've been watching my channel, lines up with the pi cycle top indicator. I can just show you that right now. Let's go to the pi cycle top indicator. It lines up with a lot of things. So let's go to, where is that? Oh my God. Pi cycle. Here we go. Did not mean to click that. As well as the log regression. Here we go. So a lot of things lining up. We showed where that move was, 200K Bitcoin. We have the log regression. That's where the highs get close to. We have that pi cycle, moving average. In a very bullish environment, Bitcoin can run into that. There's a lot of magnets or pieces of data now showing me that this could be a macro area to watch for, that 200K Bitcoin. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's go into our Mag 7 stocks. So first, NVIDIA. I'll just type it in. NVIDIA still doing pretty good. Let's go to the weekly here. There we go. I have to hit auto. To the weekly, we were getting a bounce, so we have to go to the daily. What happened? The 50-day moving average holding up pretty well. So rode the 20-day moving average all the way up, getting some support on the 50. When NVIDIA has fallen through the floor before, you can see it busted through the 100. Right now, it is showing some good support at the 50. So we'll see what happens here. And again, not to do one-to-one comparisons, but if we go back to last rate cut cycle, this was NVIDIA September to November. Okay, so overall September to November, pretty good for NVIDIA. Went from around 109 to 150. So can NVIDIA add another 40%? That's what that would be looking like. Let's go to Microsoft. Microsoft still at the 50-day moving average, hit that 1618 fib from this macro high to low. If this gets going back up again, Microsoft at 568 is the 2618 fib there. Let's go to Apple, and we'll just fly through these now. Apple from this high to low fib, getting above its 786. Apple is kind of looking pretty good here. So if Apple breaks above those former all-time highs, that 2618 is at 277 for Apple. I think it'll be a major area of chop. Google, we have Google, which has been doing very well, as I was just saying, very well recently. Won that court case, which, who's shocked by that? Getting above its 1618, going to its macro 2618. So high to low, 261. I expect, the 1618 was chopped for a bit for Google. I do think that 2618 expect some chop around 261. Amazon, and then we have Meta, Tesla, Amazon doing very well. Kind of getting near its former all-time highs. Just chopping. Might come back down to the 50 moving average at 226. But that 1618 area for both fibs around 318. Meta. Let's go to Meta here. Meta, it's probably going to be getting back above its former all-time highs. I'm really eyeing that 863 level. 863, yeah, that's the 2618. So here's the 1618, 863 up here from high to low. Tesla, I think Tesla's even been doing well lately. Yeah, look at Tesla, kind of like Google, just kept riding that 50-day, got to the point 0.5, and this thing is just curling up. So good for you, Tesla holders. A former high here at around 490. Might get some support here at this 786 fib, which is also the former all-time high at 410. It does look to be where the move is sort of chopped around. And then we have the upper area, this long channel that Tesla's been in, all the way like this. We do have that area. I wonder if that's a fib extension. We have to take our fib off log. And yeah, that 1618, 659. If Tesla gets in the new all-time highs, that'd definitely be a profit-taking area, in my opinion. I think just too much lines up there. Let's go to coin, see how Coinbase is doing. This goes the way Bitcoin goes. So if Bitcoin starts doing very well, like it did last year, Fed rate cut cycle, I expect this to go a lot higher into the 600s. Palantir, this one is, one of the, this one had a P ratio of around 600. Is this working again? Let's go to financial. Yeah, it's working. P ratio is still in the high 500s, which is just crazy. Just crazy. That this thing just keeps churning up. But yeah, Palantir, this thing is just, man, been a rocket ship and showing no signs of slowing down. Military tech AI stock, 400 billion market cap. You may have heard Joe Rogan talking about it recently, and some of the fears people have about it. MicroStrategy, this thing, don't love to see that hanging right under the 200-day moving average, which means it's near the 50. Yeah, it's near the 50, and this fib right here, high to low, this micro fib right at the 3-2 and the 50-week moving average. So this is time. If you're a MicroStrategy person, this could be an area to chip in a little bit. And if it goes underneath here, that's worrisome because it could technically put in new lows. But if it is a go up, this would be a good base area support. Where was MicroStrategy last September? Well, funny enough, look at that similar sort of setup here where it was riding the 50, tested that out, and eventually had a nice big move up. So maybe this could be the start of MicroStrategy having a big move up. No one knows, but I do like that setup. Do remember though, last cycle, MicroStrategy did top well before the alt season top. So MicroStrategy miners, they can top with or before. So just be careful of that. Who knows if this thing is going to get to new all-time highs again. But if you do like MicroStrategy, this isn't the worst area. But yeah, it has already run up an insane amount. So I look for more profit taking at these levels. 3,000% is what we saw, 4,000. So yeah, anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the markets from now to end of the year, but I think a lot's setting up for that crypto 4-year cycle. So we'll see. Thanks again and take care.